If they can, why can't we? In the contested waters of the South China Sea, China has transformed barren reefs into militarized fortresses, and Vietnam has dotted the region with its own outposts. The Philippines, despite sitting at the heart of this maritime crossroads, lags with temporary shelters and a lone, rusting warship at Ayungin Shoal. This raises a pressing question. Why is a nation with so much at stake leaving its territory exposed? The time to act is now. Building permanent structures isn't just about territorial claims. It's about survival, sovereignty, and sending a bold message to the world. If the Philippines wants to stand tall amidst the storm of rising tensions, it must anchor its presence with steel and stone in these disputed waters. The South China Sea isn't just a map of blue waters and scattered islands. It's the lifeline of global trade, a pantry of natural resources, and a chessboard of international politics. For the Philippines, it represents more than territory. It symbolizes national pride, economic opportunity, and geopolitical leverage. While China builds fortified islands and Vietnam establishes strongholds, the Philippines risks being left behind in the contest for control. The South China Sea hosts 1/3 of the world's maritime trade, with over $3 trillion worth of goods passing through its waters annually. This makes it a critical artery for the global economy and a valuable asset for any nation holding sway over it. Beneath its waves lie abundant fish stocks that sustain millions of Filipinos, while its seabed holds untapped oil and gas reserves that could fuel the country's energy needs for decades. But this bounty comes with a cost: intensified territorial disputes that threaten the Philippines' sovereign rights and economic future. While the Philippines deliberates, China and Vietnam act. China has turned barren reefs into unsinkable aircraft carriers, complete with runways, missile systems, and radar stations, asserting its dominance across the region. Vietnam, though less flashy, has strategically built its own outposts, reinforcing its claims with quiet determination. These actions don't just mark territory, they strengthen supply chains, enable military presence, and deter foreign incursions. For the Philippines to ensure its sovereignty, it must do more than protest. It must construct. Permanent structures send a clear message: this is ours. They act as physical manifestations of sovereignty and footholds for defense, research, and resource exploration. By establishing these in disputed waters, the Philippines can protect its exclusive economic zone, EEZ, bolster its claim in international courts, and secure vital resources for future generations. These structures can serve as hubs for maritime law enforcement, environmental conservation, and even tourism, showcasing Filipino ingenuity and resilience to the world. The Philippines has every right to assert its presence in the South China Sea. Building permanent structures isn't about provoking conflict, it's about protecting what is ours. It's about securing the fisheries that feed our communities, safeguarding the energy resources that fuel our industries, and standing firm against encroachments that threaten our sovereignty. For a nation that values freedom and independence, this is a necessary step to ensure that future generations can enjoy the bounty of these waters. With rising tensions and ongoing construction by neighboring countries, hesitation is not an option. The Philippines must act decisively, supported by its people and allies, to build a future where the South China Sea remains a source of national pride and prosperity. It's time for Filipinos to unite in protecting our rightful place in these contested waters, because sovereignty isn't just claimed, it's built. The Philippines' claim to portions of the South China Sea is firmly rooted in international law, particularly the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS. Under UNCLOS, the Philippines is entitled to an exclusive economic zone, EEZ, extending 200 nautical miles from its baseline, granting it sovereign rights over resources within this area. This framework was reinforced in 2016 when the Permanent Court of Arbitration invalidated China's sweeping 9-line claim. The landmark ruling not only affirmed the Philippines' sovereignty over specific areas, such as the Spratly Islands, but also emphasized the legal principle that maritime entitlements must align with geographical features, not arbitrary historical claims. However, despite this legal victory, the Philippines has faced immense challenges in translating this ruling into actionable sovereignty. China has reshaped the South China Sea, quite literally.
We do not possess any legal authority to patrol within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone. You are directed to depart immediately.
Through aggressive land reclamation projects, reefs and rocks have morphed into fortified artificial islands. Take Fiery Cross Reef and Mischief Reef, for example. Once submerged features, now transformed into sprawling military bases, complete with airstrips, radar facilities, and missile installations. These outposts serve as unsinkable carriers, enabling China to project power far beyond its mainland. Despite international condemnation, Beijing's actions continue unabated as it seeks to turn the South China Sea into a maritime stronghold under its de facto control. While China's expansion garners headlines, Vietnam has also been actively consolidating its presence. With a history of standing up to larger powers, Vietnam has fortified its claims through a combination of diplomatic savvy and strategic construction. On Spratly Island and other key features, Vietnam has built airstrips, lighthouses, and even small military garrisons. These installations serve dual purposes, asserting sovereignty and providing logistical support for maritime activities. Unlike China's overwhelming approach, Vietnam's strategy is calculated, highlighting its determination to hold ground without excessive provocation. Against this backdrop, the Philippines has yet to fully capitalize on its legal triumph. While it holds moral and legal high ground, these victories remain symbolic without a physical presence to back them up. Neighboring states have demonstrated that permanent structures are more than just buildings. They are declarations of sovereignty, practical hubs for resource management, and deterrence to encroachment. The South China Sea is a stage where history, law, and strategy converge. To protect its future, the Philippines must recognize that sovereignty is not just defended in courtrooms, but also on the ground, or, in this case, the reefs and islands of the contested sea. Building permanent structures in the South China Sea is not just a matter of construction, it's a declaration of sovereignty. These structures act as tangible markers of territorial control, sending a clear message to foreign powers that Philippine waters are not open for encroachment. More importantly, they serve as strategic forward operating bases for the Philippine Navy and Coast Guard. With permanent facilities, the Philippines can establish constant surveillance over contested areas, monitor illegal activities like poaching or unregulated fishing, and deploy rapid response teams to address threats. In a region where territorial boundaries are challenged daily, these structures are essential for safeguarding the nation's sovereignty and securing its maritime borders. The South China Sea is a treasure trove of natural resources, and permanent structures can help ensure the Philippines' rightful access to them. The region is believed to hold approximately 11 billion barrels of oil and 190 trillion cubic feet of natural gas, resources that could significantly reduce the country's reliance on foreign energy imports. Its fisheries support the livelihoods of millions of Filipinos and contribute substantially to food security. However, illegal fishing and environmental degradation threaten these resources. Establishing permanent structures allows for better regulation and protection of marine ecosystems, ensuring the long-term sustainability of these economic lifelines. By investing in these facilities, the Philippines is investing in its economic future. In the arena of international diplomacy, actions often speak louder than words. permanent structures strengthen the Philippines' negotiating position in multilateral discussions, whether within ASEAN or on global platforms like the United Nations. They serve as physical evidence of the country's commitment to defending its territory and rights. This level of commitment not only deters further aggression from rival claimants, but also garners respect and support from allies. By projecting a strong and active presence, the Philippines can shape regional dynamics in its favor and ensure its voice is heard in the ongoing disputes over the South China Sea. For the Philippines, the construction of permanent structures in the South China Sea isn't just a choice, it's a necessity. These structures would fortify sovereignty, safeguard critical economic resources, and enhance the nation's standing in both regional and global affairs. In a contested sea where every reef and rock matters, the time to act decisively is now. By building, the Philippines not only secures its present, but also lays the foundation for a more resilient and prosperous future. Between 2013 and 2018, China undertook a massive island-building campaign, reclaiming over 3,200 acres of land across disputed areas in the South China Sea. Strategic locations such as Fiery Cross Reef, Subi Reef, and Mischief Reef were transformed into fortified military installations equipped with missile systems, radar installations, and airstrips. These structures act as power projection hubs, allowing China to maintain a constant military presence and exert control over vital shipping lanes. Beyond their military utility, these artificial islands symbolize China's unwavering intent to dominate the region, creating facts on the ground that are difficult to challenge diplomatically or militarily. Vietnam, while lacking China's resources, has employed a more calculated and balanced approach to the South China Sea. It has focused on building smaller but strategically positioned structures on features such as Spratly Island and others within its claimed territories. Unlike China's overtly militarized strategy, Vietnam has reinforced its claims by establishing lighthouses, airstrips, and modest facilities. This infrastructure not only strengthens its territorial control, but also supports maritime navigation and resource management. Diplomatically, Vietnam has complemented these actions with active engagement in multilateral forums, advocating for peaceful resolutions, while quietly consolidating its physical presence in the contested waters. Both China and Vietnam illustrate the consequences of inaction. While the Philippines celebrates its legal victory at the Permanent Court of Arbitration, delays in translating this into on-the-ground action have allowed rivals to solidify their dominance. Every year without tangible developments risks further marginalization of Philippine claims. A balanced strategy is essential. Like Vietnam, the Philippines can combine diplomatic engagement with infrastructure development, ensuring that its claims are both legally and physically reinforced. It can learn from China's ability to secure its interests by integrating military readiness with strategic construction. Permanent structures are not just physical assets, they are geopolitical tools. By establishing well-placed installations, the Philippines can assert control, monitor activities, and create a foundation for future resource exploitation and territorial defense. China's island building and Vietnam's strategic positioning offer valuable lessons for the Philippines. While China demonstrates the power of large-scale initiatives, Vietnam showcases the effectiveness of pragmatic, resource-conscious actions. For the Philippines, the path forward lies in learning from both approaches, acting decisively to build infrastructure that asserts sovereignty while leveraging diplomatic avenues to gain international support. The window for meaningful action is narrowing. Delay is not an option. China continues to assert dominance in the South China Sea through aggressive tactics like regular patrols, harassment of Philippine vessels, and the 2019 Reed Bank incident, where a Chinese vessel rammed a Filipino fishing boat. Its gray zone strategy leverages non-military means, such as deploying militia fishing fleets, to intimidate and assert control without triggering direct conflict. The Philippines' presence in the South China Sea remains limited to small, underdeveloped outposts, such as Pag-asa Island, Thitu Island. In stark contrast, China and Vietnam have constructed fortified installations. including airstrips and military bases, enabling them to consolidate control over their claimed territories. This disparity weakens the Philippines' territorial claims and operational capabilities. Budgetary limitations hinder the Philippines' ability to undertake large-scale reclamation or infrastructure projects. Furthermore, political caution, driven by concerns over escalating tensions with China, has delayed decisive action. These constraints leave the Philippines vulnerable to further encroachments in its territorial waters. The Philippines must adopt a multi-phase approach to solidify its presence in the South China Sea. Phase 1 focuses on upgrading Pag-asa Island, one of the Philippines' few inhabited outposts in the disputed waters. Enhancements like expanded airstrips, modern harbors, and better accommodations will not only improve military logistics, but also enable rapid response to maritime security challenges. These improvements will make Pag-asa Island a forward base for defense operations, maritime patrols, and humanitarian responses. Moving into Phase 2, the Philippines should reclaim and fortify additional reefs and islands within its exclusive economic zone EEZ. With strategic placement, these structures will enhance territorial claims and disrupt any further encroachments by China and other rivals. This phased approach ensures incremental but consistent progress in strengthening sovereignty over contested waters. Securing international collaboration is critical to realizing this ambitious plan. The Philippines can tap into partnerships with the US, Japan, and Australia to secure financial and technological support. For instance, in 2024, the US pledged over $100 million under the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, EDCA, aimed at bolstering Philippine defense infrastructure. The Philippines can leverage international rulings, like the 2016 Permanent Court of Arbitration decision, which invalidated China's expansive claims. This ruling serves as a powerful tool in rallying global support and condemning China's aggressive actions. With increasing tensions in the region, the Philippines can capitalize on a rising international consensus around maintaining a free and open Indo-Pacific to further its objectives. While strengthening its physical presence is paramount, the Philippines must also maintain a balanced approach to diplomacy. Building stronger ties within ASEAN is vital for ensuring a unified resistance against unilateral actions, particularly those by China. ASEAN's collective voice can amplify the Philippines' stance on peaceful resolutions, while providing a diplomatic shield against potential retaliation. At the same time, the Philippines must reinforce its territorial claims through action, through the construction of permanent structures and a visible, sustained presence on the ground. This dual approach will send a strong message. The Philippines is committed to both diplomacy and defending its sovereignty at all costs. China's successful occupation of Mischief Reef in 1994 stands as a stark reminder of the dangers of inaction. Despite the reef being located within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, a delayed response allowed China to transform it into a heavily fortified military base, complete with airstrips, radar systems, and missile installations. The failure to assert control in the early stages has provided China with a significant military foothold in the region, undermining the Philippines' sovereignty over this strategic area. This case underscores the urgent need for proactive measures, including the construction of permanent structures to prevent similar scenarios from unfolding in other contested territories. In contrast, Vietnam's approach to the South China Sea has been characterized by consistent strategic development of infrastructure on disputed islands, particularly in the Spratlys. Vietnam has built lighthouses, airstrips, and military outposts on islands like Spratly Island, reinforcing its territorial claims. These efforts have helped Vietnam maintain control over these areas, demonstrating the effectiveness of a long-term multi-phase approach to territorial defense. By establishing permanent structures, Vietnam has not only strengthened its territorial claims, but also deterred further encroachments from rival states, including China. The Philippines' efforts on Pag-asa Island, while commendable, remain insufficient in the face of growing regional challenges. Although there have been modest upgrades, such as the construction of an airstrip and basic infrastructure, These improvements are far from the robust, permanent structures seen in China and Vietnam. This lack of substantial infrastructure leaves the Philippines vulnerable to further incursions and weakens its ability to assert its claims effectively. The limited presence on Pag-asa Island highlights the urgent need for a more aggressive and comprehensive strategy to secure the country's interests in the South China Sea.
Verbal challenges ang binibigay ng nakakaalarma na verbal challenges ng Chinese Navy sa aming eroplano. I think na-experience nyo din po yan sa inyong eroplano. At gusto ko lang pong sabihin kung nakikinig po sila. Ito po ang teritoryo ng Republika ng Pilipinas.
Philippine water, no fishing. Philippine water, no fishing. No fishing, my friend.
Nakangiti lang sila no?
Out, Philippine water, no fishing.
Building permanent structures in the South China Sea is no longer a choice, it is a critical necessity. The Philippines must establish a visible, durable presence in these disputed waters to protect its sovereignty, safeguard vital resources, and ensure national security. Failure to act decisively could result in losing strategic areas, further compromising the country's position in the region. The Philippines must learn from the successes of China and Vietnam, embracing a strategy that combines infrastructure development with strong diplomatic efforts. By strengthening its presence and leveraging international law and cooperation, the Philippines can better defend its rights in the South China Sea. Bold, calculated actions today will secure the nation's long-term prosperity and regional stability, ensuring its rightful claims are honored and protected for generations to come. Thank you for tuning into our channel. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth analysis of global issues.